our Arizona Corporation Commission Candidate Forum and Civic Academy. My name is Josh Martin. I'm the president of the Chandler Education Association and a VIP leader. The CEA and VIP felt compelled to hold this event because there are two available positions on the Corporate Commission, and the Arizona Corporate Commission's decisions impact all citizens of Arizona daily. In some ways, the Arizona Corporation Commission is more powerful than the governor and legislature. The commissioners have the oversight of 7 divisions that impact us at home, school, and our places of worship every day. The Arizona Corporation Commission's decisions will impact clean water access and clean energy for us, our children, and our future generations. They oversee public utilities, including electricity, natural gas, public water suppliers, public wastewater companies, and landline telephones. They oversee corporation filings in Arizona, including those of HOA corporations. They oversee the safety of pipelines and railroad crossings, and they oversee the security marketplace. During this event, we thank you for not applauding and cheering. All candidates were invited. Today, we are fortunate to have Rodney Glassman, Sandra Kennedy, Bill Mundell, and Kiana Sears here with us. Some of the candidates may be leaving early because of another event. During election season, we understand the demands on their time, and we thank them for the time they're able to be present. I'd like to introduce Karen. Karen is a board member for Arizona Interfaith Power and Light. Karen has taught junior high, served as the Educational Services Liaison at the Phoenix Zoo, worked as the Environmental Education Program Manager for the Arizona Game and Fish Department, and managed STEM programs, professional development for the Center for Teacher Success. Currently, she facilitates workshops on engineering as elementary for K-6 educators and teaches sustainability science for teachers at ASU. Karen will provide an overview of the history and function of the Arizona Corporation Commission, sometimes referenced as the 4th branch of government. Karen.
I know we're speaking to an enlightened audience, but just to make sure everybody understands a little bit of the history of the ACC, why it is so important and impactful for our lives, we wanted to give you a little bit more background. Article 15 of the Arizona Constitution established the Arizona Corporation Commission, making Arizona one of only 13 states where we elect these commissioners. In all other states, they are appointed. We have the option of electing them. It is important for us to be astute citizens here. In 2000, up until 2000, we had only 3 commissioners. At that time, the citizens said we need 5, so we did approve the addition of 2 additional commissioners. So for the last 18 years, we've had 5 who serve staggered terms of 4 years each. Every 2 years, we elect at least 2 commissioners into this position. A little louder? I thought I was loud. Okay. If a vacancy should arise, as has happened with the current commission, it is up to the governor to appoint a replacement who will serve until the next election, such as the one we have coming up this fall. The Arizona Corporation Commission functions across all 3 branches of our government. They serve in an executive capacity. They adopt rules and regulations, therefore operating in a legislative capacity. And they also act in the judicial capacity as they sit as a tribunal and make decisions in contested matters. Who monitors and regulates the ACC? Well, in essence, we do. Although they do conduct their business according to established rules and procedures, we voters have the right, by going to the ballot box and electing commissioners that we want in place to speak on behalf of all citizens of Arizona. This is how we provide our oversight. Now, how could we weigh in other than waiting for an election? Well, there are 2 different ways. If you go to the ACC website, you will see the calendar for the month posted. Once the agenda is posted, and if you go, you'll see they have a very, very busy calendar ahead of them this August. You can click on any given day, check and see what the items for discussion are going to be at that meeting. If you have an opinion or want to make a comment, you can submit that online. First, you must register for an account. It's like virtually any other website. You register once, and that stays with you for the rest of your life. But you can submit your comments online. Many of you here are teachers. I know teachers can't get away to personally visit a Corporation Commission meeting. but you also may appear in person to make your voice known. To do that, one of two ways. You can go online. If you have an account, simply register that you want to speak at a specific meeting. It will be electronically recorded. Or you can simply show up at the meeting. There's a kiosk outside the door to the commission room. You indicate that you want to speak about a specific issue. You put your name in place, and the chair of the commission will electronically receive that and call you up to speak at the appropriate time. So with that in mind, remember that your votes this fall are very critical. I personally believe that this is the most important elected state position in all of Arizona because, as Josh said, they impact our lives in so many different ways. But remember, many people never get to the ACC. They are down ballot, meaning they're not the first to appear when you go to the election booth. So some people just vote for the governor and their state legislator, and they think they've done their service. Encourage your family and friends to read all of the ballot. Go down ballot and elect in a very enlightened and informed manner, but just have them get out and vote. So that, in essence, is a brief history, and we'll turn it back to Josh.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks for the informative remarks. I would like to invite the Reverend Dr. Robin Hollis. She's deacon at St. James Episcopal Church and an active Valley Interfaith Project leader to the podium. Deacon Robin will serve as our moderator.
Okay, so our 5 candidates minus 1 received 5 questions in advance, and they were told that they will have 1 minute to answer the first 2 questions that we have for them, and 2 minutes to answer the final 3 questions. The candidate responses can be tracked on the handout that was provided at the welcome table. I believe it's a yellow sheet. And so is there anyone who does not have one of those yellow sheets to be able to track this? Super. Thank you. Welcome table. Did a great job there. We ask that, again, there be no clapping or cheering during and after the candidate responses. We'll have time to thank them and acknowledge them at the end of this. Susan Skousen is Vice President of the Chandler Education Association, will be our timekeeper, and she's going to hold up red cards when they have 30 more seconds left in their time. When she puts the red card down, the candidates are to stop speaking, and no offense, but if they don't, I'll use my trusty little cane over here. It's not a vicious crozier, but I'll put them on. How's that? When each candidate has done speaking, I will call on the next candidate who will then be able to answer the question. And each candidate will have an opportunity to speak first and last. And then for our last question, we did draw to see what order they will answer for the final question. So let's jump right into it. So the first question that you have there is candidates. Andy Tobin, who's an incumbent, has proposed that 80% of Arizona's electricity be generated by renewable sources and nuclear by 2050. In 1 minute, please tell us the best aspect, the worst aspect, and the bottom line, what you or would you not support. And we're going to start with Rodney Glass.
Thank you. The best aspect of the proposal is that it begins to focus on the issue of long-term planning as it relates to sustainability, as it relates to energy production, and as it relates to the future of our state. The worst part of the proposal is that it's a mandate. The Corporation Commission was created through Article 15 of the Constitution to protect ratepayers, to protect ratepayer pocketbooks. I believe that decisions by the Corporation Commission should be made with a focus on reliability, resiliency, safety, and affordability for ratepayers. And so since the proposal has not been fully through the process, what I can say is that I applaud the effort to focus on embracing technology in the future, but I will not support it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question. Well, I am a supporter of the Arizona Healthy Initiative, Clean and Healthy Initiative. As I have looked at Commissioner Tobin's proposal, the only thing that I can see that may be good about the proposal is the battery storage. I am looking forward to the November election And I am in hope that the voters of this state will elect me because I am eager to get to the commission so that I can help implement the Clean and Healthy Arizona Initiative.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Bill Mendel.
Thank you. I would just echo what Sandra said. I support the Clean and Healthy Initiative. I don't support the Tobin plan. If you're asking me to look at one aspect of it that's positive, it would be the same thing. There's storage in his plan. That is really the future. We will have renewables, solar and wind. We will have storage as a society, and then we'll still be hooked up to the grid short term. Long term, our kids and our grandkids are going to look back and say, that's how you generated electricity with gigantic fossil fuel plants 200 miles away with gigantic transmission lines back in the urban setting. So I don't support the Tobin plan. It does include nuclear and its percentage. I support the Clean and Healthy Initiative and hope to be elected to help implement it in January.
Thank you, Mr. Mendel. Tiana Sears.
Hello, thank you for having me. I do not support the anti-Tobin plan. What I do support is 80% renewable energy. And that 80% that I list on my website starts with that 50% solar. So we've talked about, and you've heard many candidates talk about being the solar capital of the world. It starts with being aggressive with solar and all renewable energy, wind, natural gas, and all of those things. So I do list that because I think we need to be aggressive with cleaning the air, cleaning the water, and you start doing that by going forward with renewables. So I speak all the time, and what I'm here to represent is actually solar and actually going forward with green energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Question number 2. Please comment on the code of ethics or conduct for the commissioners. How do you feel about the current code, and what do you think it should be? And we will start with Senator Kennedy.
As a former elected official serving at the Arizona legislature, 6 years in the House, 6 years in the Senate, one of the things that we always knew as elected officials is ethics, being ethical. And we could not leave the legislature and go out and work for a lobbyist or work for big corporations that we had been setting and making laws for. One of the things that I would say about the code of ethics is it did not go far enough. And if I were on the commission, I would put some real teeth into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Bill Mundell.
Thank you. The code of ethics that was recently passed by the commission isn't worth the paper it's written on. It is a joke. There are so many loopholes in it. You could drive a Mack truck, or I should say a rate increase through it. It doesn't prohibit contributions from utilities to the commissioners. It still allows gifts and drinks and beverages and food. So the example I give is you could go to an expensive restaurant on Thursday night, have expensive dinner paid by the utilities and expensive bottle of wine, and then the very next day the commissioners file a application for a rate increase, and that does not violate the current code of ethics that was recently passed by the commissioners, because it says if a matter is pending. So in my example, on Thursday night, the matter is not pending, it'll be pending on Friday morning. It is a joke.
Thank you, Mr. Mundell.
We need something similar.
Thank you, Mr. Mundell. Tiana Sears.
The current code of ethics does not address what we need. And what I bring to you is honesty, integrity, transparency. As someone who served on as a staffer, executive staffer for the Arizona Corporation Commission for 6.5 years, I saw the corruption, I saw the misdealing, I saw some things that happened. That's why I'm here putting myself to that new standard of bringing you honesty, integrity, transparency, and most of all, clean elections, not dirty politics. It's time that we, as Arizonans, hold our elected officials to a greater standard, and I'm willing to step up and do that for you. That's why I'm here today, and that's why I'm in this very contentious race, to work for the Arizona ratepayers.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Rodney Glassman?
I'm proud to be the only candidate running with the traditional system, meaning not with taxpayer funding, that is committed to not accept campaign contributions from the regulated utilities or their lobbyists. I urge you to visit my website, which is rodneyglassman.com, where I have proposed that the Corporation Commission adopt the Arizona Code of Judicial Conduct. It's the same code of conduct that's written by the Supreme Court and binding on every judge in the state of Arizona. I believe that our statewide regulators should hold themselves to the exact same standard as every other judge in the state, and I urge you to take a look and support that.
Thank you, Mr. Glassman. This next set of questions, you'll have 2 minutes to answer, and question number 3 has a number of parts. What is the role of commissioners when overseeing and directing public utilities to ensure safe, dependable, clean energy and clean water? And what are the current challenges and your priorities? And what do you believe is outside of the jurisdiction of the commissioners? And is there a role for commissioners to be an advocate for solar or other renewable energies? And we'll start this answer session off with Bill Mundell.
Thank you. The commission certainly has a significant role. In fact, I wrote the current policy, the Renewable Energy Standard in Arizona in 2006 when I was a commissioner. They're called the REST rules, Renewable Energy Standard Tariff. I wrote that policy and co-wrote it with Commissioner Mays that requires the utilities to get 15% of their electricity from renewables by the year 2025. So the commission has a leadership role, a significant role in that regard, making sure we have clean energy going forward. In fact, I was actually sued by the Goldwater Institute saying that the rules were unconstitutional. We fought them in court and won. The significant issue facing the commission really is the undue influence of APS and other utilities on the commissioners. We've called it a culture of corruption there. As we know, the former chairman of the commission was indicted for bribery along with the owner of a major utility, Johnson Utilities, and a very powerful lobbyist. That matter is pending in federal court right now. So I was on Sunday Square Off right after the indictments came out, and I said, this indictment is the tip of the corruption iceberg at the commission. Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a Libertarian, or Green Party, you should be concerned about the coziness between the commissioners and the utilities they regulate. Your question as it applies to water, the commission, as I noted, regulates over 300 private water and sewer companies. We need to encourage conservation. The commissioners can issue what's called a CCNN, which is the license to do business. If a matter is, the company's going to use groundwater or deplete an aquifer, we should either deny that license or limit it with very strict conditions, which I did when I was a commissioner. And so, and also you can have tiered rates, which means that you pay less money on your first rates than the first water than you do later on.
Thank you, Mr. Mundell. Kiana Sears.
The role of the Arizona Corporation Commissioner is to actually be a public servant, to serve you, the Arizona ratepayer, to serve us in our best capacity with keeping our rates low, making sure there's abundance of clean, safe water, making sure our air quality is great because we're using healthy green energy. And most of all, I believe the role of our corporation commissioners that we elect are to be advocates. Every single day, as I'm an advocate, being a school board member, I would be an advocate for the ratepayers. That's why I resigned from my job at the Arizona Corporation Commission as an executive consultant to work as an advocate for every Arizonan, because it's time for us to have lower asthma rates. It's time for us to have higher paying jobs because of HVAC and solar. Our children are graduating with a lot of debt, but if you do CTE and solar jobs, you will start at $18.50 an hour, so that will help. And as we continue to go out and talk about Red for Ed, we need to lower energy bills, especially August and September. That's when school starts. That's a burden on hardworking families, hardworking students, and it actually hurts the future of education. So I believe that it's so important that we look at all of the inefficiencies that's happening in the Arizona Corporation Commission. When you become a business owner, filing for your LLC could be better served in terms of it being electronic. So it's important that we have somebody who's worked there, who understands the energy, and who's willing to advocate and work for you, the Arizona ratepayer.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Rodney Glassman.
The Corporation Commission was created in the Constitution, as described in the introduction, to protect ratepayers. That's why we have the fourth branch of government. And how can the Corporation Commission protect ratepayers? By asking tough questions, knowledgeable questions, questions about how any proposal before the Commission improves reliability, resiliency, safety, or affordability. I'm proud to be the only candidate running with a background in natural resources. I have both my PhD in arid land resource sciences, so water, from the University of Arizona, and over 80% of the rate hearings at the Commission are on water companies. I also have a background in the law, environmental and water law. Every decision that has been made by the current Corporation Commission should be under scrutiny because, as we've discussed today, and as you all know, it's a place that operates under a shroud of problems, so long as there is not a code of conduct that restores integrity at the Commission. I do not believe that the Commission is a place for advocacy or mandates. That's what the Arizona State Legislature is for. I believe that the Corporation Commission's sole job is to protect the ratepayer's pocketbook and ask tough questions of the regulated public service corporations. And that's not only my belief, but that's the belief of those who wrote our Constitution and why the fourth branch was created, to protect us, the ratepayer.
Thank you, Mr. Glassman. Sandra Kennedy.
In 2008, I ran as part of a team, the solar team. And as Rodney stated earlier in his answer, the commission was formed to protect ratepayers, not the monopolies. And I think that's where the confusion comes with our current commissioners. Rather than protecting the ratepayers, they are protecting the monopolies. I am pro-solar, pro-consumer. I have dubbed the commission the Corruption Commission, and it's time to change it back to the Corporation Commission. I want to look very extensively, as Bill stated, the commission oversees nearly 300 small water companies. We need to talk about conservation. We are in the desert, and conservation should be very important to us. Broadband becomes the difference of life and death in our rural communities. And I think that we need to be looking at broadband to make sure that the communication in our rural communities, and it is also a job creator. I am an advocate for solar policy, solar and energy efficiency. They are job creators. When I first got to the commission in 2009, nearly 3,000 jobs were created in my 6 to 9 months. I am pro-solar, and I don't back down from it. I think that it is the best thing that Arizona could do, and we can be the solar capital of the world.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Question number 4. Candidates, there are 7 divisions of the Arizona Corporation Commission: securities, utilities, safety, hearing, legal, communications, and information technology. We have dealt mostly with water and electrical utilities. So please tell us about the importance of another division and how you would improve or strengthen that division for the good of the public. And we will begin with Kiana Sears.
Thank you. The Consumer Services Division exists, and it is an integral part of the Arizona Corporation Commission. And being the advocate that I am, it's about having the people who work in the consumer services division do what a lot of the hardworking, my former colleagues want to do, is protect you, the ratepayers. Work on the plans that would help with low-income families and struggling families, and actually changing how we inform the public when it comes to time of use plans and things that help people with lower rates. I believe the Consumer Services Division under a commissioner like myself would become strengthened because we have turned a blind eye with helping the ratepayer here in Arizona. So the Consumer Services Division is one that I would like to work with my former colleagues to actually do what is at the core of why I run. One, to bring you green energy, renewables, but most of all, fighting for the Arizona ratepayers. The reason why the Corporation Commission exists is to help us, the ratepayers, have a low, affordable, and actually look at all the things that are going wrong, including the water infrastructure in rural Arizona, which is decaying, and also the alfalfa that's being grown in Arizona that shouldn't be exported to Saudi Arabia and China, like it's currently what's happening, causing 1.5 billion gallons of water to be shipped overseas. So I'm here for Arizonans.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Rodney Glassman.
As I travel across the state, the number one issue that I hear time and again from the business community and residents is about corporate filings at the Corporation Commission. There is a serious problem when it comes to how the Corporation Commission does business. Corporate filings are taking months and months and months longer than they should be for small business owners across the state to do their required paperwork. Many of you know Secretary of State Michelle Reagan. For the past 2 years, I co-chaired her Leadership Council on Technology, Transparency, and Commerce. 4 years ago, when the Secretary of State was elected, the Secretary of State's office didn't even take credit cards. They've come a long way. And the sad thing is that it takes people from the business community sometimes to come into government, to roll up their sleeves, and to focus on best practices. I'm proud to work in the private sector as an attorney, and I would be proud to bring those relationships and that knowledge to the Corporation Commission when it comes to the ministerial role of corporate filings, which is important for our economy, and important for our state, and important for Arizona's small business people.
Thank you, Mr. Glassman. Sandra Kennedy.
Well, as a former commissioner, one of the things that was really important to me as a commissioner was streamlining the process. And the Corporations Division did not, at the time, when I got to the commission, did not allow you to use a credit card. But by the time that I left the commission in 2013, you could actually use a credit card to file your fees with the commission. This year, I tried to create a foundation, and I filed my paperwork, and I wanted it done expediently. Well, 7 days went by, 15 days went by, 21 days went by, and I still had not received my documents from the Corporations Division. Well, if I paid for expediency, then it should have been done within 7 days. 35 days later, I finally got my filing. There needs to be some serious looking into the Corporations Division, and I intend to do that when I get back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Bill Mandel.
Thank you. It's always hard going last, but I would also say that the area that I would want to strengthen would be the Consumer Services Division. I'd like to beef it up again the way it was when I was a commissioner for 9 years. A good example of why it needs to be beefed up is there is a current APS rehearing scheduled. Sandra and I called for a rehearing of the unjustified APS rate increase back in November. There is now a rehearing scheduled, but over 1,000 customers have filed documents with the division, Consumer Services Division, on how their bills have gone up more than the 4.5% that was advertised. We need to beef up that division so that those bills can be analyzed and submitted into evidence so that they can be, the commissioners can make informed decisions. You know, the reason the commissioners are called commissioners is because they're like judges. They're supposed to avoid even the appearance of bias or prejudice or favoritism. And so you need to strengthen, in my opinion, that division so it's doing its job protecting consumers going forward. And I would just say, lastly, you know, even if you're not an APS customer, I know a lot of you are SRP out here, and you're not obviously not Johnson Utilities customer, the same issue applies, meaning you need the Consumer Services Division to be beefed up to protect customers from all the utilities in the state. And a good example is that, you know, first APS crushed solar energy in their territory, and then they spent money to crush public education. So again, even if you're not an APS customer, it does flow because they're paying for the commercials telling us how great public education is in Arizona.
Okay, with that in mind, the last question, the closing question here is, why are you the best candidate for the Arizona Corporation Commission? And we will begin with Rodney Glassman.
Well, tonight I think I'm the only Republican candidate for the Arizona Corporation Commission that's here, but I thank you for having us this evening. My name is Rodney Glassman. I'm an Eagle Scout, husband, father. I hold my PhD in Arid Land Resource Sciences, which is water, from the University of Arizona. I'm an attorney, and I'm proud to serve as a major in the United States Air Force JAG Corps Reserve. I'm running for 3 reasons. First and foremost, as I shared this evening, to restore integrity at the Commission. I'm the only candidate running that has put forward a concrete proposal to restore integrity by adopting the Arizona Code of Judicial Conduct, and I urge you to visit that and read about it on my website. I'm also running because I believe that long-term, Arizona's most important issue is going to be water. And we need statewide elected officials who understand it, have a background in it. I worked on the policy while a member of the Tucson City Council regarding rainwater and gray water, and as I shared, I have the academic background as well. And lastly, I have a track record of service, community service, greater than anyone running. I've served on the board of the Boy Scouts now for over 20 years. I serve on the board of the Jewish National Fund, which is the nonprofit organization in Israel that plants trees and works on water infrastructure projects. And I plan on bringing that track record of service to the Corporation Commission to advocate and be a watchdog for Arizona ratepayers. I thank you again, and I ask for your vote in the Republican primary at the end of August. It's Rodney Glassman at rodneyglassman.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glassman. Next, we'll hear from Sandra Kennedy.
Let me thank the Chandler Education Association, EIP, and the Dayspring United Methodist Church for allowing us to come in and speak to you this evening. My name is Sandra Kennedy, and I am running with Bill Mundell. Bill and I have known one another for nearly 30 years. I call Bill the godfather of solar. In 2001, Bill brought solar to Arizona, and people thought he was out of his mind. In 2006, he created the Renewable Energy Standard. In 2009, when I got to the commission, I started working on energy efficiency because I thought energy efficiency went along, was a tag along with solar and renewable energy. The creation of nearly 3,000 jobs in the 6 to 9 months of being at the commission made me a very proud elected official. I am asking for your support. I can roll up my sleeves, get to work. There's no on-the-job training for me. Bill and I know where the dead bodies lie, and we are eager to get back to the commission to get the job done, but to remove the stigma of corruption from the commission and change it back to the Arizona Corporation Commission and be there as and consumer advocates for this state. I thank you for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Kiana Sears.
Thank you so much for having me. I intend to restore integrity at the Arizona Corporation Commission, bring my hard work ethic, 6.5 years as an executive consultant at the Arizona Corporation Commission. One of the things that I did was work on the things that come before the actual commissioners. So I have the experience, I have the background, and I decided to be that all-in candidate, resigning from my job to serve us, because we deserve better, and I believe to whom much is given, much is required. I've had the opportunity to flourish in Arizona, and because I came here as a teenage parent with my daughter, actually my daughter came to Dayspring. She came to this preschool over 20 years ago. So I am very elated and excited to actually get there, put my knowledge, my experience, honesty, integrity, and most of all, the grit that I have from having a disabled father who's a veteran and having the hardest working mother that you will ever find. I believe she believes she needs a national award, and that's what I bring to the table in actually reducing asthma rates, working to bring solar renewable energy going forward. I am that breath of fresh air. I'm not a lifelong politician, but I am a lifelong public servant and advocate. That's why I serve in public schools, and that's why I do what I do, because I believe in a better Arizona, because I'm so appreciative that for everything that I've given and that what I've been given have allowed me to earn a wonderful life here in Arizona. And I want that for you, your grandchildren, and everyone who come here and make Arizona their home. So God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Bill Mundell.
Thank you. We've been to a lot of events together. I just learned something about Kiana. My youngest daughter also went to Daysprings. She's 23 now, so it was 18 years ago, preschool. So, I got my start in public service, raised in a military family, thought that public service was an honorable profession. I started my public service career as a young lawyer in Chandler fighting corruption. And back then, the police were stopping people without probable cause, listening in on the attorney-client phone calls, mainly people of color. And as a result of that, I was appointed the presiding judge of Chandler at age 27. Served in that capacity for 6 years, and served in the legislature for 6 years, and actually represented this area in my youth. I was the chairman of the House Environment Committee, where I wrote numerous laws protecting Arizona's environment, including the first recycling legislation preventing Arizona from becoming the dumping ground for hazardous waste of the nation, legislation protecting the Phoenix Mountain Reserves, legislation protecting our native plants from destruction and development occurs. And as was noted, I wrote the current renewable energy standard when I was a commissioner, served for 9.5 years, was the chair for 2 years. It was noted there are 7 divisions at the commission. There's actually probably 15 functions, 7 divisions, 15 functions. Having been there for 9.5 years, as Sandra noted, we can hit the ground running. We don't need any on-the-job training. And as Sandra noted, we're running as a team. I have to say these things about Sandra because we've known each other 30 years, but she's probably the most modest public official I've ever been around. She was the last Democrat elected statewide in 2008. Most people think it's Jan Napolitano or maybe Terry Goddard, but it was Sandra Kennedy. Also the only African-American elected statewide and one of only 13 African-Americans west of the Mississippi.
Thank you, Mr. Mundell.
I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from Mr. Banks.
Hi, it's great to finally be able to talk. In 1994, Orange County was going bankrupt. The political leaders had mishandled the retirement funds, the pensions of a lot of public employees. And they bet that bonds were going to go one way and they went the other, and pretty soon they're bankrupt. Well, the California State Senate said, well, that's never going to happen again. So they said, we have to rewrite the regulations. They brought in Jim O'Connor. And Jim O'Connor, now this is what he did. He protected retirees. He protected pension funds of public employees as a bond trader for 42 years on Wall Street. Never had a letter of complaint, always of the highest integrity, which is why he was chosen for this special task. And in the 25 years since then, there has never been a comparable bankruptcy like that. And when he jumped into this race, it was because he felt, again, that retirees were being mistreated. People came to him and said, Jim, would you please run? We're seeing unexpected increases in our rates. This isn't fair. They're not looking out for us. And he wants to bring that same spirit of integrity, of service that he had for 42 years on Wall Street, helping people meet their retirement goals, helping people live comfortable, prosperous lives. He wants that to be the case for everybody in Arizona. We've driven all over the state, and we've seen how people have been mistreated by Johnson Utilities and in Chloride, Arizona by their utility there. Jim will fight for you to make sure that you are not bullied by the utilities. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes our question and answer session, and we do appreciate everyone's flexibility with the point of order. We always learn something new at each of these candidate forums, but we do want to acknowledge and honor the time commitments that these folks have presented tonight. So please, please, let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Deacon Robbins, for moderating, Susan Skousen for timing. Thank you, candidates, for participating. Thank you all for coming. We hope you will join us for a future forum and events. Dayspring will be hosting Backpacks Full of Cash. It'll be on August 23rd from 7 to 9. It's a great film about education and vouchers, how they are earning public education. We also want to invite you to check out our website, CEA's website, which is at www.chandlerea.org, where you will learn more about us and also where you'll be able to see a recording of this forum in a few days. We welcome you to mingle with the candidates, and we hope you have a good night and a safe trip home.